Okay, just part two, just very quickly, I'm going to give you guys some ideas for methods of communication. And since we've all kind of agreed that students are our main patrons that we really need to communicate with, one of the things that I've struggled with the most has been, how do I get information to my students if they're not coming in every single week for a library class? So in case you haven't heard of Edmodo, this was one of those things that I kind of accidentally stumbled upon. Actually, it was assigned to me by my principal. She came in one day and said, hey, I need you to teach a team meeting, a little 30-minute on how to use Edmodo. So I thought, well, how do I want to do that? What do I want to use it for? And one of the things that I did for our team meeting was I had our teachers, because I'm in charge of using the mobile lab for technology, I went ahead and set up a classroom for our team meetings, and this was from January of 2014. So this was something that I had done last year, but I went ahead and uploaded things to remember for using technology when they check out computers or the iPad carts with their students. This was just a Word file that I had loaded, so the teachers were just supposed to go ahead and upload it, and then they could turn it in that they had read it. You know, they could go through and submit. So a few of my teachers actually followed directions, the others didn't, which you're going to find anywhere. But the other thing that I needed to make sure that my teachers had done was understood how to use the resource calendar for signing up for the mobile labs, because I don't know how many times I would be somewhere and I wouldn't even be on campus. Case in point, I was headed to Archford Co-op for a workshop, and I got a call from one of our teachers who said she was supposed to have the iPads, and she said that another teacher wasn't going to give them up because the other teacher had them. This sign up, this online sign up, I don't know if you guys can see all the different colors over here, but this sign up is who it decides. We don't have any open computer labs, so if a group is doing some kind of online activity, they need to sign up for, we've got 4 Chromebook carts, we have one whole set of laptops, which is Mobile Lab 2, and then we have a set of iPads. So if these carts are all used, and if you notice next Monday, nobody else can sign up. All of these are signed up for at least 2 days. Then you see that well, actually, Chromebook Cart 4 is still available. I forgot about that one. And then Ms. Moreland and Ms. Engler take it over on Thursday and Friday. And then if you look at the month, this is what our calendars look like. So one of the things that I did in our Edmodo class was I uploaded one of these screencasts, just like what you're watching, the steps for a teacher, how to sign up on the mobile lab or calendar. And I don't know how many teachers I had come to me after that, after they were supposed to watch this, and I told them, send me a thumbs up or thumbs down in your confidence of using that Google resource calendar in the Turnitin space. I could tell almost immediately the teachers who hadn't even bothered to watch it, because they were still coming to me. They were still telling me, Erin, I'm supposed to be on this calendar and it's not showing up. What am I doing wrong? And that was one of the things that I told them first and foremost. Go back to that tutorial because that's the way that, that I got the information out. I took 15 minutes of my time to put it together step by step, what it looked like. And honestly, if you think about teachers, they get angry, upset when a student doesn't follow their directions, even though they've taught them over and over and over how to do something. So this has been one, a huge thing for me. And then throughout the different times I've shared, 15 things teachers and students can do with Edmodo. at different times. I've had them vote, has it been difficult to communicate assignments and grades to parents this school year? 63% said yes, 36% said no. So those were just different methods that I could communicate with them during team meetings. I also set one up for my 6th grade classes. This was a way when I wanted to let them know about Letters About Literature. Not every student's interested in entering that competition. So I did another screencast. If students were interested in that, they could do it. This was an old 7th grade one. We had an entire blog project that they were doing, so I uploaded a screencast for that. I teach botany at Audubon Ecology Camp in the summer, so I had some students put together a little commercial, and I went ahead and included some information about the camp. Even though it wasn't library related, it got the information out there because it's only for students who are 11 and 12 years old. So that was just another way. I told the kids one day when they came in, my 6th graders, if any of you guys are interested, so they went through, they all joined my class. So that's just one method of communication. One thing that I have found that has really helped me is my OPAC, my online catalog. I did not realize for years that I could embed different links under my news and messages. So before I was using Edmodo, now I just go ahead and I embed the links right here. So I have my students, my new ones, my 6th graders, they have a whole virtual tour of how to find books in the library, where things are located, so they can go through and listen and watch that screencast anywhere they have access to the internet. I can also put book recommendations on here, but it's just, to me, one of the best forms of communication. A few weeks ago, I had my 7th graders come in and I had them answer just a real short survey. I just wanted to know, did they know the difference between fiction and nonfiction? Where would they find a book on a person's life? So their very first orientation day, it was just a reintroduction to the library, and then they all got on the library page, and I had the 7th grade survey embedded over here. For now, I've taken it off so they can't keep answering. But when I looked at 166 students went ahead and answered, most of them know, 72% know where you would find a book on a person's life. 85% understand what the reference collection is. 80% knew that we had the Arkansas section. The fiction and nonfiction, I had 86% almost for both. I had about 13 or 14 kids get those two confused. So instead of having to go back over that entire skill for the whole 7th grade, I can find those 13 or 14 students and make sure that they understand that. I also asked them questions like, what types of books are you interested in? Give me some subjects, some books, for ideas. And then I also was asking about if we did a book club. So you can see that that's just one of the quickest methods I can do. I just did just a quick Google survey. So those are just some quick and easy ideas to help communicate things. Sending out a Google survey to your PTO, to your parents, using them for your book fair, huge. I could not run and do everything that I do. I go ahead and do a Grandparents' Day when we have book fair. I always have it during parent-teacher conferences. It's huge to get parents in there and get the word out. So like I said, those are just some quick and easy methods. Hopefully you guys will come up with some great ideas as well. So fast forward a couple of years later, instead of using Edmodo, Greenbrier became a Google school, and we actually were already doing Google before that, but then we really kind of stumbled on Google Classroom. So this is an example. I cannot access my classrooms, but as the school librarian, I had a classroom for my 6th graders, one for my 7th graders. I had an advisory group where I had 30 students every day. I also was in charge of a club, so I had the GMS News crew that I created a classroom for, and then we had our PLCs were through Google Classroom, so I was part of the 7th period one, but I didn't always stick with them so that I could go to the other subject areas. I sometimes went to the math one, which meant third period, and sometimes I would try to get to the sixth period with the social studies, but my home PLC was seventh period, and that was myself, the computer technology teachers, the business teachers, the school counselor, and the speech pathologist. And it was kind of nice. We were kind of, I guess, those others that didn't really fit in a regular subject area, but the fact that I was flexible and could still go to the other ones was very nice. And that was something that as the school librarian, you definitely need to visit those PLCs. In addition, we also had one for our just professional development. So if there were things that I needed to share with all of our teachers, I had one created kind of like I did with Edmodo, but instead we did it through Google Classroom, and it was much easier. So I've pulled open, Miss Foster is here with me, and so we pulled open her 7th period art one, and she has added Miss Burgess as one of the computer lab people. Miss Burgess teaches business technology and coding and things like that. So this is an art class, but they do some of the projects even within the computer labs, because the art class, typically they're focused on creating the art, but sometimes they have other things that need to go on with it. So she and Miss Burgess collaborate very well together. So one of the last two assignments in this classroom were about a lesson that she and I are collaborating on. I became a part of the Arkansas Declaration of Learning last year. Before I left Greenbrier as the school librarian, I got accepted into the program, and I went ahead and pulled this open while I was talking about it. So if anyone is interested, the application for this year is February 25th. And so it has all of the guidelines here, but it is a partnership for 7th through 12th grade Arkansas art, language arts, social studies teachers, and school librarians to use object-based learning to develop curriculum to bring history to life and share the importance of stewardship and civic engagement with the students. So for me, partnering with the art teacher, we got to use some historic objects and works of art and some oral histories, and we learned in 4 days last summer how to use them within a classroom or a school library. And so if you're interested in this program for this year, I highly recommend it. It's wonderful. It is intensive, but it does offer a lot of professional development, and it was just amazing. So last week in Ms. Foster's classes, I had already done a couple of lessons with them. We had worked with a painting from the diplomatic reception rooms in Washington, D.C. We worked with a primary painting from that establishment, and the students, we did an I think, I wonder activity where they learned to look a little deeper into a painting and learned how to really look at things. And so then the next time I went back, we did a different piece. This time it was from Crystal Bridges, and it was called The Ambulance Call. So we kind of took the same technique, but a different piece of art to really look at and analyze and then kind of wonder about some things. So then we worked in the research piece. Well, last week we had an opportunity to do the last two things that were in my lesson plan. We took a field trip to the Clinton Library. There was a Holocaust speaker the day that we got to go, and we got to be a part of it. So our students who just learned about, they had studied the Diary of Anne Frank right at the end of first semester in their literacy classes. All of the 7th grade literacy classes did that. Then we went to the Clinton Library, and the piece that we were going to use was the Anne Frank tree. And our essential question was basically, how can we create art to preserve our stories and give hope after cultural struggles? So the students were going to, after that field trip, they should understand how objects can be used to symbolically extend hope to a struggling cultural community. So that was kind of where we were going with that. They created an essay after that on what symbol would represent one of the other three panels that were around the Anne Frank chestnut tree: the Indian Removal Act of 1830, the internment of the Japanese Americans during World War II, or the Little Rock Central High School desegregation crisis of 1957. So that was kind of where we were going with that. But in addition, that very same day, we also had it scheduled where we went to the Butler Center for Arkansas Studies, and they have an exhibit on the World War II Japanese internment camps. There were two that were here in Arkansas. And so for the Butler Center trip, our essential question for that, we were thinking about, why is it important to discuss cultural struggles and preserve stories from difficult times? The students had already accessed Delphine Hirasuna's voice or podcast recording of the struggles from when she and her family were in the camps. So it was kind of ironic or amazing, I guess, or fate, if you want to call it that both trips we were able to do in one day, and we're going to tie both pieces together eventually. The students are creating a book, an illustrated book, where they illustrate a symbol or something from their own culture, and then they'll have a writing piece within that book, and we're going to publish that as a class book. But in the meantime, using Google Classroom, Ms. Foster and I were able to load. One day they worked on a Japanese internment lesson, so they had different resources to access, and then their final product was to turn in this suitcase worksheet. No, only two said that they had done it. We realized the suitcase sheet was a Word document, but it didn't allow students to enter in. It was just this big blank worksheet. I'll pull that open. The students were supposed to identify if they had to take only one suitcase with them, whether they were going to the internment camp or a concentration camp, what would they pack? And so instead, we handed out paper copies, and that's what they turned in instead. So sometimes, the idea behind Google Classroom is fantastic, but the reality was we didn't load it right, so it didn't quite work. Then another day, they had another activity where they were going through the Delphine Hirasuna podcast. They were learning a little bit about the Anne Frank tree, and there were some other activities for them to do, and then there was an exit slip for them to fill out. And again, only two said they had done that, but when Ms. Foster looks at the form, she saw that more had filled out the exit slip that answered some of those questions. So I don't know, some of us, we're learning specifically how to do assignments and things like that, but from a school library standpoint, Google Classroom is huge, and that was something that our district required all of the school librarians to do. They wanted us to become Google certified educators, because every time something comes out, something comes down the pike, we were always the ones that first needed to learn it, whatever technology it was, and then teach it to the teachers. So if you're a Google school, Google Classroom is definitely the way to go when it comes to communication. Now, as far as parents and other things, using a newsletter, huge. And I even did one with our 6th and 7th graders, and I knew that not every 6th grader or most of the 7th graders wouldn't always make home with those newsletters that for the parents, but in the meantime, I could also post those. There was a school Facebook page for Greenberg, and that's where more of the parents were. The students are on Instagram and other social media. Twitter, also helped. I think more for the parents. Some of the kids got into Twitter, but not really to me. Snapchat, all of those others. So you need to be creative to reach all of your patrons, but definitely try everything that you possibly can.